Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is AndrewOscarDelta, and welcome to a brand new series I'm kicking off called Super Story Sundays. And basically what it is every Sunday, I'm going to post a story that I deem interesting enough to share with you guys. And no, I do not have that interesting of a life, so I guess this probably won't last very long. Anyways, this story I feel is very interesting, and I feel like you guys are probably going to enjoy it a lot because a lot of people do take pleasure in others' misfortune. Pleasure for pain is how people say it. So basically, as you could probably tell by the title, I ran into a tree and it hurt really badly. I cut my eye, and I'm pretty sure I needed stitches, but due to terrible negligence by my dad, I didn't get any. But anyways, that's for later on in the story. So it all started back when I was... That's a good question. I don't know what age I was exactly at the time, but I do remember I was pretty young. I was about probably 9 or 10, and not much older than that, that's for sure. And see, in Canada we have March break. I know in America you guys have spring break. March break is typically, it usually starts around the 8th of March. It's not exactly on a date specifically. It's usually just, the Saturday of the second week in March. My birthday is March 9th, and March break started on March the 8th. Now, before I get more into the story, I want to tell you about a certain friend of mine that I've had through all of my childhood, and his name's Scott. He was a troubled youth, Scott was, to say the least. He got suspended a lot, he got into a lot of trouble, he was always, getting himself into things, and of course, me being his best friend at the time, well, I'm still his best friend, but at the time, he's a lot better now, a lot better head on his shoulders now. But at the time, he was a troublemaker. And it was March 8th, obviously my birthday was the next day. And on my birthday, I was leaving for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So, for vacation, for March break. And so that day I'm hanging out with Scott because I'm not going to, hang out with my best friend for a week or a week and a half or whatever it was. And we're hanging out because my birthday was the next day. So we decided we're going to go to the park. Now, where we lived at the time, the park was directly up a hill. It wasn't like up a hill and around the corner, blah, blah, blah. It was directly up a hill. And it was about a 2-minute walk. It wasn't very far. So you walk up the hill and you get to the park. So we decided to do that. We're going to go to the park. We're going to have fun. We're going to play at the park. We're going to do whatever we're going to do at the park. So we get to the park. And we're playing on the jungle gym or whatever, the creative, I think is what people called it. And we're playing on it, and all of a sudden we see a purse. Now, I still am actually a very worried person. I think the worst in every situation possible. And, had it would have only been me there or myself and another friend who wasn't Scott the troublemaker, I would have just completely left the purse there and kept playing and minding my own business. But no, of course Scott goes, let's steal the purse. And I said, no, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, whose purse is it anyways? And we look around, and all of a sudden we see two girls sitting on there was like a Jeep. It was obviously a Jeep that wasn't real. It was just like an exoskeleton of a Jeep type thing with like deflated wheels, and it's sitting there on the creative for kids to play on, whatever, pretend they're driving, whatever it is. And there's two girls there, and my perception of them was that they were older. I don't remember how old they would have been. They would have been maybe 14 or 15. I do remember they were mature because back in the day, nowadays kids have purses because they try to be much more mature than what they actually are. But I remember back in the day, this would have been, 10, 12 years ago, girls only had purses if they actually were mature enough to have a purse. If they were like 14 or 15, 10, 12-year-olds didn't have purses. So I remember them being quite a bit older than us at the time. And So Scott's going through the purse, and I'm sitting there worrying. I'm like, Scott, they're going to find out. They're only like 30 meters away from us, less probably. And I'm like, Scott, they're going to see us. They're obviously going to notice their purse is missing sooner or later. So sure enough, as Scott's going through the purse and he's taking stuff out, there wasn't really anything in there because these girls weren't actually adults. So it's not like there was credit cards, there wasn't bank cards or whatever. But I do remember seeing an ID of some sort. Now, I don't remember if it was a driver's license. I don't remember if it was like a health card or what it was, but I remember seeing a card with the girl's face on it and her name and whatever. And then at that point, see, Scott, he was always a troublemaker, and by that I meant he made trouble. He he didn't break the law in any way. You know, he wasn't going to steal this purse. So, of course, what he did was he dug up a big hole and buried the purse right under the slide. So basically what happens is you come down the slide and you step basically right where the purse was buried. Just as he's finished burying the purse, the girls look over and see us, and it probably clicked into them pretty quickly that they forgot their purse, and that, of course, those kids had their purse. So they look over, and I remember them shouting something, and, you know, if we would have just sat there calm, saying, and they would have came over and been like, do you guys have our purse? And we would have said no, and then they would have no proof that we buried their purse, or that he buried their purse. I am not even an accessory to this terrible hate crime of his. But yeah, he buried the purse, and they came over, and then they asked us, actually they didn't even come over. They started walking towards us and they yelled something about a purse, and all I heard was purse, and I started booking it down the street. I started running, not down the street actually, just away from the park, and obviously Scott's coming as well, and he's running too, and we start running. And as I mentioned before, the reason why I mentioned this, that the park was in direct sight of our house. It was only a 2-minute walk up a straight hill, and there's our house. So we're running down the street, we're running away, and my house is on the left, Scott's house is on the right, but they're directly across the street from each other. So instead, because apparently I was actually a decently smart kid, which you wouldn't believe since the end of the story is me running into a tree, but since I'm actually a somewhat decently smart kid, I decide not to run into my house, because then they're going to know where I live. Sure enough, Scott runs into his house, and I keep running down the street. I'm just absolutely running, and Scott runs into his house like an idiot. So I get to the end of the street, and I hide behind a bush, and I look, and then I see the two girls walk up onto Scott's doorstep and knock on his door, and I'm just going, Scott screwed, Scott screwed, Scott screwed. They're gonna call the cops, whatever. Obviously they weren't gonna call the cops because, you know, but when you're a kid, you know, you think the worst in everything. You think, I'm gonna go to jail for life because I buried their purse in the sand. And I'm going, oh my god, Scott screwed, what am I going to do, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, he just books it out his front door towards me. He's running at full flight, and they're chasing him. And I'm going, no, you idiot, what are you doing? You already gave away your house, don't give me away now, too. So he's running towards me, and I just decide to keep running. So I get up from behind the bush, and I just keep running right down the street. And I get to an apartment complex. Now, this isn't the best neighborhood in the world, and no, I lived in a pretty decent neighborhood, but where we ran to, this apartment complex wasn't the greatest neighborhood. And inside the apartment complex, there was a mini park type thing. It was like a little creative. Nobody used it because everyone pissed all over it, and there was like graffiti all over it because, you know, like I said, it wasn't the greatest neighborhood. And so I'm running, and I hear them behind me, or I hear footsteps behind me, and I hear running behind me. So I turn around. No, I don't turn around. I'm still running at full speed, straight. But I turn to look over my shoulder to see who's chasing me, and I see that it's Scott. So I turn back around to continue running. But sure enough, since I was running, not looking where I was running, when I turned back around, there was a tree in front of my face, and I absolutely smashed into the tree. And I was a pretty tough kid when I was young, actually. I remember being very tough. I cried for very, very little reasons. It took a lot to make me cry as a kid. And I remember just hitting the tree really, really hard and feeling blood. I hit it just above my left eyebrow. And there still is a mark there, or a scar, I suppose you could say. But thank God I have super bushy eyebrows and it covers it. But I remember blood being just basically pouring down my face. No, that's probably over exaggerating. It was coming down my face pretty good. It wasn't pouring down my face. And I remember walking home very, very calmly, and the girls weren't chasing us. So basically, I hit a tree for no reason. And walking home, and I remember seeing two girls that I knew from school. They weren't attractive or anything, so the rest of the story is not very interesting. But I remember two girls I knew from school, and I was walking so calmly, like a boss, with blood going down my face. And they're just like, "Oh my god, Andrew, how are you not crying?" And I'm just like, "Doesn't even hurt." So yeah, anyways, as I continue walking home, Scott's obviously walking with me like the concerned good friend that he is, and he's just like, you know what, man, whatever happens, happens. And he walks back home, and basically the girls are like, just give me my purse back. So he goes to the park and undigs their purse, and everything's fine. You know, obviously there's no repercussion because we're were like 10-year-old kids, and we didn't steal anything from them. We just hid it. And then I get home and I knock on the door. My dad answers the door, and you would think that a father would be like, "Oh my God, what happened?" Blah blah blah. My dad just goes, "What did you do?" And my friend goes, "He ran into a tree. Oh my God, he's bleeding. You gotta take him to the hospital." And my dad goes, "Just get in the house." So I get in the house. My dad washes it up, puts a Band-Aid over it, and monitors it for a couple hours. And turns out I probably didn't even need stitches anyways. Obviously I didn't, because it stopped bleeding after a little while. But I thought it was funny at the time. I was like, "Dad, aren't you gonna take me to the hospital? Blah blah blah. I need stitches. Blah 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 blah." And my dad was just like, "No, you don't, and you're an idiot for hitting a tree." So anyways, guys, that is my Sunday super story, or whatever I'm going to call it, for week number 1. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment below. Let me know if you guys want me to continue this series next Sunday as well. And I might also start a Mail Mondays for tomorrow. So if you like these ideas I have for just a little bit of a change in my channel, instead of horror gameplays or let's plays, just sit down and do a video where I get to tell you guys a little bit more about myself and entertain you guys for a little bit. Anyways, like I said, if you enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and take it easy, guys. Bye!